Okay, so picture this, right? My niece, total sweetheart, but someone swipes the red crayon, her favorite red crayon, during coloring time, and it's like World War III
Oh, I
erupts.
know that feeling. Kids and grudges. It's like they invented holding on to anger.
Exactly. And it really got me thinking about how we teach kids about forgiveness, which, as every parent, caregiver, or, grand supplier can tell you, is way easier said than done.
Oh, absolutely. It's
Mhm.
definitely one of those things where it can feel like you're like wading through mud sometimes, trying to figure out the best way to approach it all.
Exactly. Which is why we're diving deep into 5 practical tips today, all about equipping you with the tools, the insights to, navigate these choppy emotional waters and hopefully raise some pretty darn forgiving little humans along the way. Kind of like a cheat sheet for raising more forgiving kids, because let's be real, who couldn't use a cheat sheet every now and then?
Right. Especially when we're talking about something as complex and nuanced as forgiveness.
Totally. And what I love about these tips is that they're not just like pulled out of a hat. They're actually grounded in, developmental psychology, that whole understanding of how those little minds actually work and grow.
Exactly, exactly. It's about understanding the why behind the what. So you're not just like throwing spaghetti at the wall and hoping something sticks, you know what I mean?
Love that analogy. Okay, so tip number 1, drum roll, please. We got to model forgiveness. I mean, let's face it, that whole do as I say, not as I do thing.
Yeah.
Yeah, that flies out the window pretty quickly in the parenting world. Am I right?
Oh, 100%. Kids are like those little recording devices, the ones that are always listening, always watching. They soak up everything we do way more than what we tell them to do.
So true.
Like every time we forgive someone, especially if they're watching, we're basically showing them, hey, this is how you navigate those tricky relationship moments. It's like etching a blueprint into their brains for healthy relationships.
Wow, that blueprint analogy is spot on. Do you have like a real life example where you saw this play out?
Oh, absolutely.
Uh,
I remember this one time I was observing this young boy, maybe 4 or 5 years old. He was with his dad at a store, and the clerk accidentally like overcharged him or something. And I remember the dad, instead of getting upset, he just very calmly and patiently explained the situation to the clerk, and they got it sorted out.
mm.
And later that day, the same boy, he had a little squabble with his friend over a toy.
Oh no.
Right? Classic playground drama. But here's the thing. This little guy, he used almost the exact same words and tone his dad used earlier to forgive his friend. I mean, talk about a light bulb moment. It was like, bam, the power of modeling right in front of my eyes.
That is amazing. Makes you realize they really are always watching, even when we think they're not paying attention. Okay, so we've planted the seeds by modeling forgiveness, but now we got to water those seeds, right? Help them grow. Which brings us to tip number 2, which is all about talking about it, discussing the importance of forgiveness with our kids.
Yeah, exactly. And it's not just about telling them to get over it or let it go, but actually explaining the why behind forgiveness,
Exactly.
like how it can actually make them feel better, help them have stronger friendships, feel less stressed or angry,
Hmm?
basically giving them those emotional tools to navigate difficult situations. It's like, think of it like, giving someone a toolbox. You wouldn't just hand them a hammer without explaining what it's for and how to use it safely, right?
Such a good point. Forgiveness is like this super valuable tool, and they need to know how to use it.
Exactly.
Awesome. All right, tip number 3 takes us a little bit from the head to the heart. It's about encouraging those little ones to express their feelings because, let's be honest, bottling things up,
Mm.
never a good
The
strategy.
worst, right. And
Mhm.
forgiveness, it doesn't mean we just pretend we're not upset or hurt. It's actually super important to help kids identify and actually like put words to those feelings.
Absolutely.
Like, are they feeling angry,
Yeah.
sad,
Uh,
frustrated? And there's some really cool tools you can use for this, especially with younger kids. Things like, those feeling charts where they
uh-huh.
can point to a picture that matches how they're feeling.
Oh, yeah.
Those are great. Or even just doing some good old-fashioned role playing can be super helpful.
I love that. Okay, so we've identified those feelings, we're expressing them in healthy ways, and now we got to take a walk in someone else's shoes, right? That's where tip number 4 comes in teaching empathy.
Yes. Empathy is like the magic key that unlocks true forgiveness, right?
Mhm.
Because it's hard to forgive someone when all you can see is your own perspective.
So true. So, how do we actually teach that? Because it can feel kind of abstract sometimes.
Totally get it.
Oh.
It's all about those little nudges and prompts. Like let's say something happens, someone gets their feelings hurt. You can ask your child, hey, how do you think Sarah felt when that happened? Or, for older kids, maybe you discuss different perspectives on a situation. Like, why do you think he might have done that, even though it hurt her feelings? It's all about building those empathy muscles.
I love it. Bridging that gap in understanding. All right. And finally, we've reached our fifth and final tip, which is all about the power of positive reinforcement. Because a little praise can go a long way, especially with kids, right?
Oh, absolutely. It's like rocket fuel for their little spirits.
Hmm.
But here's the thing. We got to be specific with our praise. Instead of just a general good job, try something like, wow, I noticed how you were able to forgive Thomas even though you're still upset. That was really mature of you. See how much more meaningful that is? It shows you're really paying attention.
Totally. It's those specific acknowledgments that really stick with them.
Exactly. It's like, oh, they noticed. They saw me trying. It reinforces those positive behaviors in such a powerful way.
Absolutely. Okay, so to recap, our 5 tips for raising those little forgiveness champions. We're modeling forgiveness ourselves. We're discussing its importance openly and honestly, encouraging those kiddos to express their feelings. We're teaching them the power of empathy. And then we're showering them with specific praise for their forgiving actions. It's like building this beautiful foundation, brick by brick, for understanding and practicing forgiveness.
Love that.
But here's a final thought I want to leave you with. You know how we're always talking about those societal messages kids are bombarded with? Well, think about the messages we see about forgiveness, whether it's in movies, books, or even just everyday conversations. Do we tend to glamorize revenge stories more than we highlight the power of forgiveness?
Ooh, that's such a good question. And I think it's something we all need to be more mindful of, right? Because those messages, they seep in, even when we don't realize it.
Absolutely. It's all connected.
Definitely. And those messages, they help shape how kids view forgiveness, how they understand it, even if it's subconsciously. So it's definitely something worth paying attention to and being mindful of.
Totally. Food for thought as we wrap up this deep dive.
Definitely some good food for thought.
All right, until next time.
See ya!